Hello and welcome back to the NOTCAST. Haven't done one of these for a couple of weeks. In case you don't know, my name is Mark. This is not a podcast, so it's called a NOTCAST, and that means that about once or twice a week I talk about something that interests me, and judging by my viewing figures, not many other people. And that's okay. I haven't done one of these for a couple of weeks because they take brain power, they take diligence. I need to be in the right mindset to do it. Because otherwise, let's say I'm going to be talking about an album by the Oasises. Let's say it's called What's the Story, Morning Glory. If I'm not in the mood, I'll end up taking a sheet of paper out here and I will just talk about it like this and not be interested. And why would you be interested in watching it if I'm not interested in talking about it? Which is kind of like AI and going, why would I want to read something written by AI when a human couldn't be bloody bothered to write it? I don't know. But no, I haven't done any of the album themed ones for a while for a number of reasons. I haven't really had the energy levels to do it. I haven't had the capacity in my head to do it. It's not been where I am. There's been some personal stuff going on, which some of you may know about, some of you may not. And I'm looking at some quite distressing things around that. Obviously, revelations about people's behaviour, which I'm not exactly overjoyed about. People that don't give anybody else around them any care or consideration is my opinion. Despite what they say otherwise, actions speak louder than words, and their actions show no consideration for the thoughts or feelings of anybody else. That said, actions do speak louder than words. I should do these, and so let you know on my big sheet of paper what's coming up next, which is annoying things that record stores do. So these are episodes which I'm going to be talking about. Annoying things that record stores do. Blur's The Great Escape. Oasis's What's the Story, Morning Glory. Pink Floyd's A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Possibly a band called The Beatles, which you may or may not have heard about. They're a small band, haven't done much for years. Cure's Songs of a Lost World, Morrissey's Boxers and Southpaw Grammar, Pulp's Different Class, possibly The Mission's Children, Sisters of Mercy's Vision Thing LP, and the Stone Roses' Second Coming, and Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. Scream for me, NOTCAST. But when I can't be doing those, or I haven't done the prep for them, I go for what's called my random record rummage, which is what we've got today. And yes, I will be doing an episode about the Cure's Songs of a Lost World, but not quite yet. So in my random record rummage, I ask another human being to pull out of my bag of dreams and see what there is in there. So that's normally a 7-inch, a 12-inch, or an LP or something, maybe a book, cover, a CD, DVD. And I genuinely have no idea what's going to come out. I have a suspicion with one of them, but I'm not quite sure. Should we get stuck in? Yes, we will. What random crap have I got in here? And whilst I am looking for a 7-inch, which is where I'm going to start, I should remind those of you that The Cure have announced a new single called A Fragile Thing, which is a track from the Songs of a Lost World album that was announced this week, that's due out next week. So there we go. This is my first choice. This is called Forever in Negative. This is by a band called Art Magic. Art Magic are very good and don't sell enough records, in my opinion. Art Magic consists of two people, Sean McGee, who amongst other things is a producer and artist, singer, vocalist, keyboard player with Alison Moyet, and also Richard Oakes. Richard Oakes, the guitarist who is, in my opinion, the most underrated British guitarist alive, even more so than Rory Gallagher, and who I don't rate. And also Richard Oakes single-handedly saved Suede and has been their guitarist for the past 30 years. Yet somehow all of his work and his efforts and his genius, which is bloody obvious, has been overlooked because they made 2 albums with some other dude 30 years ago. Rubbish. Art Magic are, in my opinion, a very, very good band. So this is the band that kind of formed out of the end of Suede. At the end of Suede, Sean was talking to someone and said, whatever happened to that guy who played in Suede? And well, that guy who played in Suede happened to be the brother of someone he was talking to, and said, he's my brother. And so the two got together, and I've seen Art Magic play a couple of times, and I think they've been excellent. They have a fantastic song, which you'll probably never hear because Sean doesn't like it. That they also have a couple of albums out. So one I think is called Songs of Other England, and I've forgotten the name of the other one because it is over 10 years old now. And it sounds, you can hear what Richard brings to Suede by what he brings to Art Magic, a particular type of playing, a particular type of sound, a particular type of song. And there are some songs which are on the Art Magic album, which is the first one. I think there's a track called Down by the River, which was written for Suede, but obviously Suede ceased to exist before that became a Suede song, so it was repurposed. And that's a great song, but this is Forever in Negative, which is actually my favourite Art Magic song. And this was a limited edition, Bandcamp only, 7-inch single. I don't think the Art Magic album was released on vinyl. If it is, I certainly missed it at the time. And this was just lovely, actually. One of my favourite songs by them. It's also backed with a track called The Glass Arcades. That is a fantastic track. So do give them a listen. If you're thinking, oh, I'd like to hear something that sounds more Suedey, this is the one for you. So Art Magic, strongly recommend it. By the way, don't use the Bandcamp code on there. Sorry, I beat you to it. But that is a great little release. And talking of 7 inches, I went to a shop yesterday, and when I went in, a box of 7-inch singles had come out and was just put down on the floor. And that, you know, the guys that always try and want to have the first run of absolutely everything. And he said to the guy who's putting it down, oh, is there anything good in there? And he went, not really. So I looked in there, and there was Black Sabbath's Hard Road on purple vinyl, Motorhead's Golden Years live EP, Motorhead's Bomber on 7-inch, Erasure singles of Sometimes, and Victim of Love, and The Circus, and Aberesque, and there's another one whose name I've forgotten. And then there was also a single, Election Day by the Arcadia, i.e. former Duran Duran, and a couple of jam singles, including When You Were Young and A Town Called Malice. And I took all of those home for £6. So they're going, yeah, not really much good. Yeah, so be it. So there we have it. So we're going to go for the 12-inch, and I think I know what this is on the grounds that it's of its shape. This is, I'm afraid to say, yeah, don't judge me. This is the Smiths, and this is an interview disc from the mid-80s. So in 2002, I worked at an organisation whose name sounds oddly like Moyle Rail, and they had an internal staff marketplace where staff who worked there would be selling things to other members of staff. And some guy said, moving in with my girlfriend, I'd like to sell all my Smiths records and my Morrissey records for £150. So I emailed him and went, what have you got? And he sent me a list. And I went, nice, I'll take it. And it was a good collection. It was a really good collection. So if you go back to seeing some of the other Smiths NOTCASTs, and you see me bringing out, like a green vinyl of Ask with a different cover from the Leather Boys or something, it was only released in Germany. That's where it came from. Because in 2002, people were literally giving away their vinyl. I could walk down the street coming back from work. There'd be a cardboard box with, an honesty box principle. Take what you like, £1 an LP. And I would get like Pink Floyd LPs for £1. I get David Bowie LPs for £1. I didn't get Rolling Stones because I didn't like them then, and I didn't get Beatles because I didn't like them then either. But all of that stuff was there for £1, and I was just like, right, like Top Trumps, got, need, that kind of thing, or Panini stickers, and that's how I built my record collection, because I kept my record player in the 2000s when it was uncool, and I bought all the stuff when it was given away. And lo and behold, it now looks like I've spent a fortune on records, where in 2004 I just spent a lot, getting a job lot of about 20 Bowie LPs for £20 on eBay, for example. You wouldn't get one of them for £20 these days. So I guess that's where we were. And the Smiths was part of that collection as well. This is a very peculiarly unusual kind of format, which is that they used to sell interview picture discs with unlicensed photographs of the artists and spoken word interviews taken from cassette recordings made by journalists. So if you're Johnny Nobody and you're interviewing them for the Lincolnshire Garden Times, for example, and you'd have a cassette with 38 minutes of Morrissey talking on it, you would then sell that cassette because it's not a musical performance and therefore it's not covered by the recording contract with Rough Trade or EMI or whoever. You'd sell the rights to that and then press it up as a picture disc and then sell it, and you'd get a few extra £100. And somebody would have a Smiths interview 12-inch, and lo and behold, 40 years after the interview, some bald guy with a beard would be talking on a thing called YouTube, on a thing called called the internet that you would never even imagine would have existed in 1984 about it. And in short, interview discs from the 80s are worthless. They are of curiosity value at best. You listen to them at most twice, and that's that. You know, you listen to them and go, yep, okay, that's fine. That's not very interesting. Of course, you can have another picture of Morrissey on the other side, but very clearly, most of these say interview picture discs, limited edition, contain no musical performance whatsoever. So Global Megacorp can't come crashing down on them like a ton of bricks for violation of contract. So there you go. Don't spend much money on these. They're not very good, really. They really aren't very good at all. So we're going into the books, and we're going into the DVDs, and the book, I have a sneaking suspicion I know what this is by the size and sound of it. That looks like Brian Johnson from the AC/DCs. Yes, Brian Johnson. The Lives of Brian. I haven't read this yet. I picked this up in a charity shop for about £3. And this is the memoir of Brian Johnson, vocalist of AC/DC, to this day from 1980 and the death of Bon Scott. He doesn't talk about AC/DC in any great or substantial detail at all, despite having their name in big letters on the cover. Because if you're a fan of AC/DC, you know AC/DC are kind of like the KGB of rock. They are a secretive organisation that only tell you things when they absolutely have to. I know nothing about their personal lives apart from I think they've got some. I think I've seen Angus's house, and I think Angus's wife is a bit alt-right on Twitter. But that's about it, really. And so therefore the inner workings of AC/DC are very, very quiet indeed. There's it's kind of like, I guess, the mafia, really, I suppose, in so much as if you join, you just can't do it. And and possibly the most interesting thing about this actually is the AC/DC stuff. So Brian talks about when he had to come off tour in 2016 with a damaged eardrum, and how he was struggling to hear, and he was down to 20% hearing in one ear, and he couldn't really make out what he was hearing, what the band were playing, what key he was in. He was operating on visual cues by looking at the band members and working out from the stage set and where Angus's fingers were, kind of what part of what song they were in, which actually is very debilitating. So I had, in 1997, I had a significant ear infection called otitis externa. It is horrible, and it is like you've got a runny nose but for your ear, and it's just vile and it smells disgusting. And I know it's cost me at least one relationship, because at the time that I first had it, I met somebody and my ear stunk and I couldn't work out what they were saying, and they probably thought I was a horrible wildebeest, which, to be fair, may or may not have been accurate. I don't know. So there you have it. This is a really interesting book about growing up in Britain in the 60s. I think possibly the rock star memoir by someone like Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, Brian Johnson. These are possibly oral histories of Britain that will be lost. And so therefore these memoirs are actually quite important in capturing the experiences that we have. Social documentary, so kind of like some of the books which you get about, for example, the power cuts in the 70s. Rob Halford's book is really interesting as well, because Rob and Geezer Butler's books talk about growing up in a Birmingham of the 60s and the 70s that I just about dimly remember, bearing in mind that I'm about 20 years behind both of those guys. I remember the worlds that they were talking about, and that's probably the case with this as well. As you can tell by the eloquence inside the book, Brian does not write the lyrics for AC/DC, because there is not one chapter called Cover You in Oil. Right, so we're on to CDs and DVDs, and I don't know what this is. Let's find out. Bela Lugosi in Dracula. This is the Blu-ray. This is the 100th anniversary edition of Universal's Dracula, the definitive and very, very influential vampire movie. From, I think, 1919, I think, maybe 1912. No, 1931, actually. It's the 100th anniversary of Universal Studios and not the 100th anniversary of the film itself. Bela Lugosi is, of course, obviously dead, but also this is, and I love a classic movie. I've always loved a classic movie, and I'm always going to. So this has an original documentary by people, none of whom who were alive at the time the film was made, a commentary, a new score by Philip Glass and performed by the Kronos Quartet, which actually I should probably be more familiar with than I actually am. And Dracula, like Nosferatu and Frankenstein, is one of those classic horror movies that perhaps in retrospect these days looks very tame and very pale, but at the same point is hugely influential on everything that is to follow and is to come in future. So there you have it. It's been a few years since I've seen this. I can't comment upon whether it's any good. I've clearly kept it for a reason. Maybe I should have watched it during lockdown. And then the Blu-ray, here we go. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. The Breakfast Club. So this is the Blu-ray by the John Hughes. This features a fantastic soundtrack. It also features the greatest Billy Idol hit single that never was, Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. And Don't You Forget About Me was originally written for the film. I don't think the makers of the film particularly gave a damn who was the singer. Billy Idol turned it down, and then it became Simple Minds' his greatest hit. So there you go. One of my favourite artists, the Anchoress, plays or has played in the Simple Minds live lineup as well. So the Breakfast Club. This is, I think, about 40 years old now. Certainly responsible for a heck of a lot of memes. And also features, if I remember correctly, Ali Sheedy there, Molly Ringwald. So there was this meme, which one has Ali Sheedy as Joy Division and one has Molly Ringwald as New Order. And that's kind of how I agree with exactly how those. And that's great. John Hughes made some great movies. He made some pretty terrible ones. Great movies he made include Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay movies he made include Planes, Trains and Automobiles and The Breakfast Club. And you look at those movies and you go, actually, even though he was largely reclusive during the last few years of his life, he said a lot in a very short time and had a huge cultural impact upon people. If you were growing up in the 80s and you were watching things like Labyrinth, John Hughes, they were films that you went to and you saw and you went, I get it. You understand what it's like to be a teenager at this point in time. Films like Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, for example, those type of things. And I wish he'd made more films as an adult, showing what it was like as these characters matured and grew through life. Much like there's a documentary series called 7 by 7, where every 7 years a documentary crew checks into 7 particular people, all of whom were born on a certain day, and find out where are they in their life, what are they doing, what are they up to. And it's fascinating television to watch, and I would have loved someone like John Hughes to have done the same kind of approach with this in much the same way as Richard Linklater's Boyhood, or perhaps the Before Sunrise, Sunset and Dawn kind of movies had it. So that's it. That's the selection that we've got today. It's been a good selection. I appreciate the thought and care and utter randomness of what's come out. Hopefully that's been okay for you. The plan is to carry on and pick up and talk about bands and artists in future. But I did want to just check in with my small number of viewers and let you know that, yeah, I'm still here. I'm just coping with some health stuff and I'm coping with some live stuff. And I really hope to be back to as near as to normal as I've ever been, so that I can be the person that I used to be, but better. And talking of being the person I used to be, but better, over the past few weeks, I've decided to be more assertive. I've decided to set down boundaries more often. I've decided to be clearer about my expectations and to tell people when I have good memories around them. And actually, that's been one of the most positive things I've done, because I don't feel in fear of people who have no power over me. I feel able to express my opinions and know that my regret is not that I didn't express my opinion, that if I have a regret, it's that the other person or other people either liked it or didn't. And it's up to them how they act, despite how they think. I kind of just say, hey, had a lovely memory pop in my head about you. Hope you're okay. It's really nice to think about that. And sometimes that comes in the strangest of places for the strangest of reasons. Seeing someone I cared about worked for Crisis, the homeless charity, and seeing an advert for Crisis then reminded me of them. And I was like, oh, saw Crisis on the television, remembered you, hope everything is okay. And the short survey is, yes, everything is okay, which is good. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to wrap up now, if that's okay. and I will see you all again soon. Stay beautiful, take care of yourselves and each other, and adios amigos. All right, bye.